Hi, everyone. It's Charlotte Baker Jackson, the Candid recruiter. I am so excited because I have a very special guest today that you are going to learn so much from about benefits. If you don't know already, you're watching Coffee or a Cocktail. I have coffee. I think my guest has coffee today.
Yes.
And we are going to talk about benefits and the importance of just being aware of what benefits options are as you're looking for work. But in addition to that, just getting a deeper understanding of what benefits, the different types of benefits and what it means for an employer to have a benefits package and what we can learn about an employer based on their benefits package in terms of how they value their employees. So I want to first introduce my amazing friend today, Tanya Laguerre.
Hello.
Tanya is a benefits expert, and we met in such a crazy way. It was just like the most authentic way I think you could meet someone to really get to know them, who they are, just, the kind things that they do. Let's tell them how we met, Tanya. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good.
I love the way we met. I love our story.
Yes.
We met we're Oprah Winfrey Network.
Yes.
I was
the amazing Oprah Winfrey Network.
Yes, the amazing,
Yes.
incomparable Oprah Winfrey.
Yes.
Network. I was a benefits manager, and you were the recruiter.
Yes.
And we actually shared a desk together.
Right, but we worked on opposite days.
For few months that we were both employed there, we didn't really see each other. We shared the same space. So because I was a consultant, I came in on certain days. You were also working on certain days. So we even shared a desk.
Yeah.
So how we kind of became friends was because I stole your snacks.
Right. No, I shared my snacks.
You shared your snacks.
We would always leave one another notes because I think when I started working, you called me like on the first day.
Yes.
And we talked over the phone.
That's true.
You said, and I was already on a high because let's just get this out there. When you walk into the Oprah Winfrey Network, I'm sure you'll agree, it's like you open the doors and you're just like, you hear her voice like, ah!
Yes. You're
the most
amazing,
welcoming environment
of the building, but also it's just the marble way, and then there's flowers that are just
that big screen that's just so beautiful, So it was just such an environment that was so welcoming.
Yes.
So aside from the people who I was working with there who were getting me through the paperwork, I remember having a conversation with you. And just, we just hit it off over the phone. But then from there, we started to leave one another notes. So I think we were there Mondays and Wednesdays, and I think I was Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays.
Yes.
And we would just leave one another notes. Have a great day.
Like mini
some of your snacks.
Yeah.
So here's some more.
Here's some more snacks. I just took those snacks from you. So here's some extra ones I bought you. And all the while we'd never physically seen each other.
Right.
Yeah.
So then when we met, it was like we already knew one another. We already had friendship in a way, and it was just magic.
Love at first sight.
We never lost touch, and I hope we never lose touch.
Yes.
So you are a benefits expert.
Thank you.
And anytime I have benefits questions, I always come to you. But please share a little bit about your story, what it is you do as a benefits program manager, in terms of just your growth and just what you do on a day-to-day.
Absolutely. So I've worked in benefits for over 16 years. I entered the lovely world of benefits administration as a coordinator for e-entertainment way back when. And then I kind of grew through the ranks, went from E-Entertainment, which turned into Comcast, to Discovery, to Mattel, as we met the Oprah Winfrey Network, Viacom. I've definitely had my share at some Fortune 500 companies.
And across multiple industries, which is
across multiple industries.
valuable.
Funny enough, of course, now I'm in the ad agency world, but yes, across different agencies, different industries, and definitely acquired a lot of benefits experience, anywhere supporting employees about 500 to 1,000 to over 5,000. Many different benefit administration platforms, and obviously open enrollment cycle, which is the Super Bowl for any benefits professional. I've had my share of ups and downs, but also lots of success with open enrollment cycles. So lots and lots of benefits experience.
That's great. That's great. And so the reason I wanted to do a show on benefits is because as a recruiter, I'm obviously speaking with people on a regular basis about jobs, employment, and what always seems to matter most to most people, which makes sense, is base salary, right? What's the salary? What's the money look like? Is there a bonus, right? So most of the questions that I get asked are money related. But I know that there's so much more to a total compensation package. So I think first, let's break down, really what a total compensation package is in terms of course, the base, the bonus, but what are some of the other perks, benefits, and incentives that an employee should look for as they're prospective employee should look for if they're anticipating a job offer?
Correct. And so there's always the core benefits, medical, dental, and vision. There's also core retirement and equity, as well as deferred comp, depending on sort of what level you're in. So when I say deferred comp, it's an opportunity for you to put money aside, usually pre-tax through a program that your employer set up, that's above and beyond what's offered sort of to everyone else for
that's interesting.
Yes. So there's varied levels, of course, of what we consider benefits and compensation that would comprise of your total compensation packet. So just as a sort of a backup, when we talk about benefit packages, we can also talk about total rewards. So if you may hear the term
total rewards.
Talking about
heard that often.
Benefits and compensation. So they usually go hand in hand. And as you were saying, your salary is usually considered your base, but all these other things that kind of make up your total rewards package are the medical, the dental, the vision, which are pre-tax benefits, other spending accounts that might be available to you.
Like the flexible spending account, which I always take advantage of. Can you share a little bit about what that is?
Yes, so flexible spending. So spending accounts, I'm a huge proponent of spending accounts. Depending on what type of medical plan you have, it may be helpful to have a spending account to help you manage your costs even after your insurance is applied. So for example, if you have, let's say, a medical plan that has a relatively low deductible, I would say somewhere around under $500, then you're going to want to use what's called a healthcare FSA, which can help you with, even after your health insurance is used, you'll still have maybe a copay or co-insurance that you want to pay. Well, you can put money aside out of your paycheck pre-tax, which is a great savings to help pay for those medical costs. And so that's like a flexible spending account. It's super convenient.
And not only medical costs, but also, correct me if I'm wrong, medications, which I guess would be medical costs, but then also I know some companies have monies that can be put aside that can be used for childcare.
That's correct. So there's dental also that you can use it for, and vision. But as you were saying, for dependent care FSA, which can sometimes be a misnomer because it's not dependent healthcare, it's rather child care. So it could be actually child care or adult care. So if you're putting money aside,
or adult care, wow.
Yeah. If you're putting money aside for caring for a child under the age of 13 years old that relies on you and is within your custody and requires some type of child care, either before, after school, it's usually not for tuition of school, but like an after school program is eligible, nannies, babysitters, basically anything that's offering child care during the day so that you can work as an employee. Elder care or adult care is also eligible in a dependent care FSA.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yes, so if you have an older person living with you that
Mhm.
relies on you financially, then you are able to put money aside pre-tax up to $5,000 for care for them during the day, again, as you're working.
Got it.
That could be caregiving. That could be an agency that comes by just to check in on your elder relative.
Wow,
Those are
yes.
eligible expenses.
Got it. And then there are also just the fun incentives. Like I remember we worked together at another company. We ended up working at another company, and they always had meals every day.
Yes, so perks.
Different perks. So talk about some of the perks.
So perks, in terms of,
I know it varies from company.
It definitely varies. So, and also it tends to be industry driven as well. I find that many of the tech companies, especially smaller kind of startup techs, love to have sort of those, work-life balance type perks. So a benefit where, you're being fed lunch, you can depend on the lunch, you can depend on the breakfast, you can maybe have meals that are provided for you to take home. That way, those are expenses that the company is actually taking on for you. So again, that's something that you may want to consider if you're applying to a company. If the company is offering you meals, that's in some way considered compensation. That's in some way something that you can include part of your total rewards package. But as you were mentioning, meals, also if you're offered dry cleaning services, if you're offered transportation services.
Yes, I heard that some companies will allow you to Uber to work.
Uber to work, reimbursements
Take a
for
lift,
any
get reimbursed.
that you use.
Yes.
There's lots of different ways in which a company can sort of shell out money toward you so that you're reducing your overall cost by being an employee there. And again, because of that concept, you want to kind of consider that part of your total rewards comp.
Sure. So then in looking at the total cost, right? What is the average, or is there a range of percentage that benefits make in terms of how the benefits make up the total compensation?
So there isn't a necessarily rule of thumb, and it also definitely depends. However, we usually see around, it's usually 30%. It can comprise about 30% of what we consider your total comp. And again, we were just talking about that could be your base salary, the equity that's provided to you, the different types of perks. Let's say if that's about $100,000 in total, about 30 grand could be about the figure of comprising what your benefits might be eligible. So not to say that it's liquid cash, as in $30,000 is available to you. It's more of just like, that's the value, approximately about 30% of what.
But that's a great value
per employee. Yes. So it's something to think about. We were doing some analysis about an employer ago where we were looking at total reward statements and wanting to send out total reward statements to our employees. And it's funny, I had always had this figure in my head, 30%, 30%, 30%. And upon doing that analysis, we realized we were doing 45% per employee because we hadn't realized all these different things that we were doing for employees, as cell phone reimbursement, the meals, the dry cleaning, the bike reimbursements, all of these different things that we're adding up to, wow, every employee has this at their disposal. And so we can include that as part of comp. And we can say that, hey, we're an employer of choice that's providing you these high level of benefits. So as an employee, someone or prospective employee looking for employment, it's interesting to look at those things to, usually any company that you're about to apply to, or that you're, you've just recently received, you just got hired to, will give you that information about their benefits. And it's really important to look at what are all the benefits they're providing me, because it really talks to the value of the company. It really talks to the priorities.
Absolutely.
The priorities.
The priorities, that's key. If you're a parent looking to, looking to start your family, does this company value?
Are there benefits for family planning, like egg freezing,
fertility benefits, and Yes.
is there adoption assistance provided by the by an employer? You know, I was working at that company I was telling you about that we had the analysis, and because the leaders at the top found adoption so important, you know, they were offering $10,000 in just no questions asked. You just provide the documentation to
Wow.
that reimbursement, and $10,000 toward adoption fees. And adoption fees are expensive.
It's expensive.
Process, everything. And that really helps out, you know, any new family trying to bring in a new member to their family. So,
Yes.
you know, all of these things, it really talks to the heart of what the company believes in. So it's something you want to consider when you're looking for that new employer.
Absolutely. So, you know, now we're all faced with the reality of COVID-19.
Yes.
And I'm sure that as we move forward, I mean, so many people have been impacted, displaced from employment, but, you know, this will pass. And as people start to look for opportunities, you know, these are all things that they should look for, you know, as they have conversations with their prospective employer.
Yes.
Learn more about these benefits. But I'm curious from your perspective, how will benefits shift? Will things get better, worse? You know, I know that a lot of companies are planning accordingly in terms of, you know, reducing staff, et cetera, so that they can have cost savings whenever, you know, so they can use it in the future once we're back. But I'm curious to know from your perspective, are there any specific conversations that you all are having now about how benefits may change, how the benefits landscape may shift?
Well, I'll take that question in two parts. So we'll talk about sort of benefits right now during the pandemic and sort of what we're looking towards afterwards. So during the pandemic, obviously, benefits is a pretty big variable. You know, we talked about before, you know, as an employee, a prospective employee, you're looking for all the things that your company has to offer. But at the same time, you know, companies don't have to offer benefits. Benefits are they're entirely, you know, at the discretion of the employer. You know, obviously to stay competitive, companies offer better benefits to say, you know, hey, we're the employer you should come to because we offer them more better benefits. But, you know, they're not obligated to offer such benefits. So when you're in a time where, you know, budgets are strapped and costs need to be contained, benefits is definitely something that is a variable that they can work with. So I've been finding a lot in the pandemic, you know, how employers are working is, you know, they're maybe having employees that are going on unpaid leaves. And when I say leaves of absence, it's not that you're basically in an inactive status for a while, and sometimes leaves can fall under benefits. And with leaves are also kind of considered, I'll call for the purpose for ease of explanation. I would consider them benefits because it's usually time above and beyond what's mandated by like a state or federal law, where you're saying you can take this time, we'll pay for you to take this time, and you're off of work. And so some of those can be considered benefits as well. So certain types of paid leaves. So if you're on it during the pandemic, some employers have decided, you know, we're going to put you on an inactive leave where we're asking you to, you know, maybe be unpaid entirely of that. But
so that would be like a furlough.
Exactly, like a furlough. Furloughs usually are for a much longer period of time, maybe like 3 to 6 months. The unpaid leaves tend to be a little bit more, you know, you're kind of coming back within a week or two, and in that stasis or status, excuse me, you are you're still maintaining your benefits. Your medical dental vision.
Right.
Furloughs can be
which is especially key right now with COVID, because I've known quite a few people who have been placed on unpaid leaves. So they still have their benefits.
Right. And that can be a little bit more difficult with furloughs. Furloughs is not necessarily as clear. Some companies I have seen that when you're placed on a furlough, you are continued with your benefits. Some of them I've seen move to sort of a COBRA model where you're paying some level of contribution, but you're not paying the full COBRA amount during that furlough. Others I've seen, and I have to say a company that I'm currently working with now they're covering the benefits while the person is on furlough as for the term of the furlough. So that's also a great thing. I've also seen, employees that have just have left the company, have been separated, and as a result of that, they've been offered COBRA. COBRA is a very important thing to understand.
Please explain a little bit about that. Yes.
COBRA is a federal law, and I want to repeat that. It's a federal law, which means that it's mandated by the government. So everyone is entitled to receive COBRA. COBRA is a continuation of the healthcare insurance that you currently have while you're actively employed. So you're active employee, you're receiving a level of certain benefits, medical, dental, vision, whatever those are, and then you're terminated. And then after that termination point, you are now continuing those same exact coverages with the same carriers. And so the COBRA allows you to do that typically up to 18 months, but the kind of the offside of it is that you're paying the full premium.
Yes.
So what your company may have before, there's a cost share. Usually they're paying a little bit, you're paying a little bit per paycheck. Now the COBRA mode, you are paying the entire
assume the responsibility for all of that cost
of that product, plus usually a 2% admin fee. So, and that's on a month-to-month basis, and that's for the continuation of your COBRA. So, COBRA is really important because, many times if you're trying to get insurance out there in the marketplace and you're not finding something adequate, but you're like, I want to keep the same insurance I have before. I don't want my deductibles to reset. I want to keep everything that I had in place for my family. This is an opportunity for you to maintain those benefits for up to 18 months. So a year and a half. It can be quite expensive, so you may want to look toward, Covered California for California, or the healthcare.gov site for additional benefit options. But COBRA is really a viable option. So.
Great. So what are questions? The landscape piece.
Half of your question.
I don't want to skip that.
So then moving back into returning to work, I think the biggest aspect of benefits is going to be interesting is the telework. So telework can be considered a benefit as well, because prior to the pandemic, where we weren't required to stay at home, it was sort of a perk that an employer could provide an employee to work sort of at home for some time and come in, maybe not commute all the time in, and that would allow for that work-life balance. And it's quite a coveted, benefit that many employees that have families would like to have, and it's not always available. And this stay-at-home mandate has definitely changed the game. So
and it's even changed, I think, the mentality of a lot of employees.
Mentality, exactly.
Because it's now clear that companies can survive.
It's possible. It has to be.
Employees can thrive and do well working from home.
Exactly. And so with that said, I think there is going to be a lot more leniency around families or employees with families wanting to have that work-life balance and work from home either entirely or, managing that, 2 to 3 days back in the office. So I'm hearing everywhere from, a Google to Facebook, they're saying that they're likely going to do it indefinitely.
I just heard that about Twitter as well, that they won't be returning to an office. It will adjust to this moving forward. So that's great. If someone is looking for a job, what are 3 things that you can share that they should really be considering when looking at a benefits package?
Yes. So the biggest thing I would consider would be your medical, dental, and vision, right? So that's your core healthcare services. Why that's important is because it is what your lifeline is in terms of having insurance when you're sick, when you're ill. You really want to make sure that you're getting plans that offer good coverage, not sort of subpar coverage where you could be paying a high deductible that needs a lot of money out of your pocket first before the health insurance company comes and helps you
out.
And
I think that's important to distinguish what the deductible is. That's the amount that it could be, anywhere from $500 to or less to $2,000 more. And you have to pay each time you go a portion of that. And then
So with high deductible health plans, I believe the limit is about, I think it's $1,500 is considered a high deductible. deductible health plan. I could be wrong about that. It might be just a little bit.
Is that the same for like HMO and PPO?
Well, HMO and
The high end?
HMO and PPOs are different types of plans, but the HMO usually does not have a deductible. If it does, it's usually a lower deductible, under 1,000. The PPO plan, in high deductible health plan, is a version of a PPO, which is a preferred provider organization. So you're able to sort of pick different doctors.
You have more options in terms of where you can go to seek care.
But the biggest thing is with the high deductible health plan, the high deductibleness of it is that you have a high amount that usually you'll have to pay before the insurance company comes to help out.
Got it.
The biggest piece about that is you want to make sure that if you're doing that, you know how to manage the cost. There usually should be tools that your employer provides you to know how to go and get more cost-effective services, x-rays, different types of things like that. You want to really look into your benefits package if you have plans that are high deductibles. That's only in that case. The other thing you want to consider is that they offer an HSA, a health savings account, with that high deductible health plan, so you can help manage those costs that you're going to inevitably pay with the high deductible. So that's really important. So that's the first point. If you're looking at your medical, dental, and vision, you really want to make sure you're looking at those medical plans and seeing what type of deductibles are being offered. And if that's the case, look at your HSA.
Yes.
The second thing I would look at is your overall leave policies. So leave policy, this is really important.
Which I never look at.
If you're looking to plan a family, it's so super important. If you're, a young woman, a young employee looking to start a family, and you want to know how much time will I be able to take off if I decide that I want to have a child, or if I want to
adopt a child,
or does this company offer, time for me to plan, as in the in vitro cycles or anything else that could come up in fertility treatments. Is there time available that the company offers above and beyond what might be available from a state or regulatory standpoint? What does my company offer for me to be able to do that? Those things are really important to look at as well. And then the last thing I would say, and there's no particular order with this, they're all of equal importance, but deferred comp. So deferred comp and equity. So this really matters if you are going to be receiving money from your employer above and beyond what your base salary is. So this can be in form of, restricted stock options, employee stock purchase plans, retirement savings, a Roth 401k versus a traditional 401k. I know there's a lot of concepts I'm throwing out at you, stock options, but it's important.
Well, this is great because you're giving this information and then people can take it in and do additional research, right?
Yes.
So, when they receive an offer, they can plan ahead.
It's very, very, very important to sort of look at what your offer is and how this information is detailed, and to understand the financial institutions they might be using that are backing these different types of deferred comp and equity plans, what the terms of the agreements are, what money is being invested for you, when the vesting periods are. Again, I'm sorry I'm throwing out these terms right now, but it is something that you definitely want to research and things that you want to look at as a perspective.
That's what Google's for. Yeah.
Exactly.
It's important for people to know the terms and they can get more information.
But it's crucial because these type of benefits, the deferred comp and equity, these are long-term benefits. These are things that grow with you, with your time, with your tenure with the company. So they can really be cash cows for you. So you really want to see if you're optimizing them and how to best optimize them.
That's great. Another thing that always comes up when I'm hiring people who, they've been in their career for a while, but then decide that they want to go back to school. I know that a lot of companies offer tuition reimbursement. I know that there are a lot of rules involved with that. Usually you have to be with the company for a certain amount of time before you be eligible. And even once you go through school, whatever you want to pursue typically has to be related to the job.
Well, funny enough,
Always.
all of those things you mentioned are actually at the discretion of the employer. So the employer can create a policy and they can kind of come up with what they want in terms of like what the eligibility criteria is. So do you have to wait 6 months? Do you have to wait a year? Do you have to wait 2 years to be eligible for this program? Do you have to fulfill, can it only be certificate only? Can it be degree only? Does it have to be job related? And then like as you're in the program, is there like an enforcement mechanism or a system that you're using, or it's like making sure that you're keeping up with your grades, all of that
And
stuff.
even post program, sometimes you have to stay for another year, required to stay for another year or two.
Yes, but all
There
of
are a
those
lot of different
pieces,
criteria that they can come up with.
all of those pieces can be determined by the employer, so they can vary company to company. What doesn't vary is that it's considered a tax fringe benefit. So there are different, the IRS puts different rules as to what your employer can give you as free money toward things. And one of those things can be tuition reimbursement. And I believe if it's the same as what it was last year, I think it was like 5,700 was something
Like the maximum.
was like the max fringe benefit amount that you could provide. I'll have to double check that amount, but it's around that amount. But a company can do above and beyond that. It's just that it's going to be, it won't be a tax advantage also for the employer.
Sure.
So they can provide that extra money, but they'll likely have to pay additional taxes on it. You may actually have to pay additional taxes on that as well. But I believe the tax fringe benefit limit is somewhere around $5,000. So if you see a plan or a tuition reimbursement program that's like, we offer 5,000 something per year, that's where that's coming from. But in terms of what you were saying as to, when are you eligible to join that plan, and what system you have to enroll into for them to monitor your grades and how you're doing every year to year, and that the year afterwards you've maintained time with the company, all of those things can be determined by the employer, so it can vary from place to place.
Right.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing that information. Now I want to shift a little bit to just talk to you a little bit about life as an employee, right? To know, and if you could share from a personal perspective a little bit about just some of the challenges that you faced as a woman in the workplace, and how you've overcome those challenges, and or how you're still working through some of them on a day-to-day.
I think the biggest challenge I have is that I would like to think that I'm a pretty compassionate person. Maybe that's
yes, you definitely are. That's great.
When I'm dealing with an employee, employee can come to me with benefits. Your employees can come to me with a number of things that are very personal. Especially if they're taking leave of absence. If an employee is diagnosed with cancer and they need to start setting up, how they're going to do their treatment, and they need time away from work. They really want to understand, how all of that works. And so I, take that extra step in saying, here are all the things that are available to you. Here are all the things that we can do to help you. And I want to really make sure that person feels supported. And so what I do is every single year I try to, with any place that I work at, I really try to do my best and sort of, gathering all of the feedback I've gotten from employees to say, hey, here are some things that I think we can do to really improve the state of the benefits plans, the state of the program, to make sure that it's really addressing employee needs. And I think what I can say, and I think any benefit professional will probably agree, is that my biggest challenge is trying to get that translated into cost effectiveness to the C-suite when it ultimately comes to making those decisions. What I mean by that is saying, hey, I really think that we should think about co-pay structures. They're much more easier to understand for employees, and I think employees would really appreciate having co-pays in our medical plans. However, it is going to be more expensive, but I do think that this will show, as an employer of choice, that this can really help our employees and that we really care. And it's very hard for that to come through when you're having a conversation with sort of finance folks and
absolutely
ultimately trying to get those things approved when, the intention is good. It will definitely benefit us. And in the long run, I think our employees will be happier and they'll produce more, quite frankly. But that challenge always exists where it's getting the sort of finance folks at the table.
The stakeholders and the people who can make it happen to why it's necessary for the organization.
To sort of look into that and say, you know what, that makes sense. To despite the costs, let's go ahead and let's move forward with that. It's very rare that I find that. I tend to find it more for companies that are smaller, where the leaders there's a smaller gap between the leaders and the employees in terms of either compensation or from responsibility or to proximity. And I find that they tend to be much more compassionate and empathetic about employee benefits, especially if they're on the benefit plans as well. But I find that with larger companies, it's hard to kind of get those, hey, we really need a more inclusive, maternity leave program, or rather baby or parental leave program, because we have many same-sex couples that are adopting children, and we should really make sure that those plans are offering equal, if not just as generous benefits. And again, it's one of those, well, if not everyone else is doing it and it costs us more money, well, we may not be able to achieve that. And so it's really hard to hear the no's, but I always push my agenda every single year. This is what we need to do. And I always get something gets passed,
And that's why we love you, because you're so great at what you do, and so compassionate and just open and approachable. And I know that the employees where you work really value that, the people that you're working with. And I know firsthand, because you made me feel special at Hello. We even had a face-to-face. And so that is truly a gift that you have. So I just want to thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Coffee and a cocktail. Cheers through that.
Cheers.
The information that you shared is invaluable, and I have no doubt that people will learn and take something away from this conversation, so that hopefully, if they're still employed, great, they'll learn more about some of their options there. If they're out of work, they'll be better prepared in terms of how to pursue their next opportunity and what they should be looking for from a benefits perspective. So thank you so much, Tanya Laguerre. I love you, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you. And it was a pleasure and honor to be one of your first guests. So thank you for the invitation. I really appreciate it. I think this is really important to talk about, and thanks for having this platform.
Absolutely. No, it's my pleasure. And thanks again for your time. I know it's you're so busy. And so it really means a lot to me that you took this time to do this for me, and then just to share all of your amazing breadth of knowledge with everyone. So thank you.
Bye.
Bye.